Good morning, buenos dias. Welcome to Tiempo. I'm Joe Torres, and we begin with a challenge facing many New York City parents: getting their child into a specialized high school, which often helps land a student at a top-ranked college. Making the grade for the gold standards, high schools like Stuyvesant or Brooklyn Tech, is especially tough, and for Latino students, it's even harder. Figures show the number of Hispanic students who scored high enough to make it into these schools has dropped in the last 10 years. The organization Science Schools Initiative strives to raise diversity at elite public schools. And joining us is Michael Mascetti, Executive Director of the initiative, and Sam Hausner-Levine, a tutor, and both alumni of
Stuyvesant High School.
You want to tell me what year you graduated? Or
2002.
2002?
And 2006.
2006. Good to have you guys here. Happy New Year, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
The numbers have gone down. Let me set the base here. The numbers of Latino, black and Latino students in the elite high schools of New York City, like yours, your old high school, has gone down over the years. How dramatically has it gone down?
Well, starting about 10 years ago, the numbers were pretty low, and every year they continue to decline. They almost can't get any lower at this point. Mm-hmm. So in 2008, there were 8% of test takers who were Hispanic were getting into one of the schools. 2009, it was 7%. Now it's at 6% overall getting into any of the schools.
At a time, Michael, when the number of Latino students in the New York City school population is going up, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely. And what's interesting about the numbers is that at the top schools, there's a ranking among all the specialized schools. The numbers are even starker. Mm-hmm. At Stuyvesant High School, for instance, only 1% of the incoming class at Stuyvesant last year was Hispanic.
To what do you attribute the falling numbers?
I think that there's a very aggressive test preparation that goes on for this exam, and students in wealthier neighborhoods pay thousands of dollars to prepare for this exam. If you look at the different zip codes across the city, you'll see the Upper East Side, the Upper West Side get a lot of students into these schools, and then when you compare them to Washington Heights, the Bronx, parts of Brooklyn, you'll see that they're getting in, 0.5% into even one of the specialized high schools.
So extrapolate that further. What's happening on the Upper East Side that's not happening in Washington Heights that allows students from that neighborhood to get into the schools, whereas in Washington Heights they don't?
I think there's the test is so difficult that students really need to prepare for it outside of the regular classroom. Mm-hmm. So parents who are able to afford that expensive test preparation can pay sometimes hundreds of dollars an hour. Mm-hmm. for
Sam, I should get you involved here. Yes.
What
Sam,
I'd like to add on to that is that there's the cost of specialized preparation classes from private institutions, but there's also the cost of private schools. In a way, kids who attend private schools and for years receiving kind of
So let me make it even simpler. Economic opportunity. That's
Absolutely.
what it is. People on the Upper East Side can afford to send their kids to get a tutor to prepare for the exam. And we should point out, it's an exam, correct, that
Yes.
gets you into the schools?
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
You do well on the exam, you can get into the school.
Right, absolutely. The only criteria for admission to any, and these are considered the best public high schools in the city, the only criteria is this one single test that students take in late October, early November, the 8th grade. Mm-hmm. And some students prepare for years for this test. And as a matter of fact, in some communities, what's happened in some of the Asian communities, they have cheaper test prep programs that run out for about 5 years before this exam. And the same thing doesn't exist in some of the...
So we've illustrated the problem.
Right.
Your initiative is the solution.
Absolutely.
What is the goal of the initiative, and how does it work?
Okay. So the goal of the initiative is to get more low-income students into the specialized high schools, especially Latinos and black students. We focus on Washington Heights and Upper Manhattan, and now we're in parts of the Bronx. Mm-hmm. We go to schools that traditionally don't get any students into the specialized high schools. And we teach for an entire year. Every Saturday, students come to our program for 3 hours of preparation in math and reading comprehension and test preparation.
Let me pass it over to Sam, because you're one of the tutors, correct,
yes,
Sam?
I teach the 6th grade.
So how does it work? I mean, how big of a quote-unquote class are you leading or tutoring?
Every week I have about 12 students, and it's been consistent throughout the semester. The same kids show up every week. And, you know, it works very similar to the kind of prep class that I took.
Yeah, but you're teaching to the test, are you? So what's happening in the classroom?
It's a mix. My approach to the students is because they have a little more time before the test. It's important to me to get their basic fundamental math and reading skills down pat. I think all these kids are bright kids and they do well, but it's about solidifying these skills so they can employ them quicker and more efficiently. And then there's also just a lot of direct test prep, working with questions from the exam to see how questions are phrased, is the exact type of questions and answer formats that they'll experience.
Sam, let me ask you a deep question.
Sure.
How much of this is building confidence within the student to be able to have them say, I can do this?
I would say a lot of it is building confidence. I think there are a lot of kids who, upon first seeing the test, are so find it so daunting
they don't believe
that
in
they kind of shy away from it. Right. And what I try and enforce in the kids is that this is a test that anyone can pass with spending the time and the dedication to improve your skills and be able to tackle this test.
I see you nodding your head. I mean, I would think that building some self-confidence within these students who live in a community where life is challenging enough.
Yes.
And here you've got someone who comes along and says, you guys can do this. And not only can you do it, you will do it, and you'll get into a great school. And from there on, the opportunities are endless.
Absolutely. We select kids at these schools who are at the top of their classes, and we tell them when they enter the program that they have the ability to succeed on this exam. And we reinforce that message every Saturday. We have all of our tutors went to one of the specialized high schools, so we want somebody in front of the kids who took the test in the 8th grade, was successful on it, and so it's not so much of an abstract concept for them.
Sit tight. A couple more questions for you because what you guys are doing is absolutely fantastic. More on an organization that's giving the best and brightest Latino students an edge for admission into New York City's top high schools. And still ahead on Tiempo, Diego Rivera at MoMA will take a look at his work and the Latin art movement in America when we come back. Welcome back to Tiempo. We're talking to Michael Mascetti, the Executive Director of Science Schools Initiative. It's a tutoring program that helps give Latino students at the top of their class a better chance, right, to get into New York City's specialized high schools. Our other guest, Sam Hausner-Levine, is a tutor with the program. You started this, right?
Absolutely.
You started out of an experience, out of an eye-opening, out of seeing that Latino students were not getting the opportunities. What sparked it?
I went to a friend of mine who went to Stuyvesant with me, Darren. We got together, and we had both been tutoring privately for this exam.
Yeah.
And it pays very well to do that. But we wanted to make an impact on you know, kids who needed more of an opportunity to get into these schools, kids who really needed the help.
You've been doing it 5 years now?
We're entering our 5th year.
Are you at the point, Michael, where you can measure your success, where you can see how well you're doing?
Yes. We typically get over half of our students into one of the specialized high schools. And, you know, we're expanding at this point. We started off very small, and we're growing every year. Now we have 40 students at our Bronx location and about 30 students in Manhattan.
I'll get to MS-80 in a second because what's going on there is fantastic. As a tutor, Sam, what do you see in the students who arrive there? Are they in dire need? Do they need a lot of help? Are they close already and just need a little pushing?
I think what I notice with the students most is that they don't quite understand the challenge that they have ahead of them.
Yeah.
These kids are at the top of their class. They're bright. They, you know, are already doing well in school in the environment that they're with. But I think a lot of them don't realize the extent to which they'll really have to work in the next couple of years to get to these schools that they really want to go to. And so I think working with the students, the challenge that I see for myself is both sharpening their academic skills, at the same time kind of introducing them to the process and exactly what they're working for, what the tests will be like, what the schools are like, and also the opportunities that you can really get from going to one of these schools.
Can you share with me a quick story about the personal sense of reward that you must get from a student who maybe graduated 3-4 years ago and has now come back to you and said, Sam, what you taught me really helped out?
This is my first year in the program teaching.
Well, there's still got to be some reward, I would bet.
I would guess the most rewarding students are the ones who come back each week. I mean, I
would think it's uplifting for you, right? To be able to say, you know, I'm making a difference. I really am doing something here that could be a Latino leader of tomorrow.
Absolutely, and I think it also just really, I think it helps kind of actualize the mission of schools like Stuyvesant and Brooklyn Tech, in that there's something very egalitarian about the idea of just having one exam and just based off that, you get kids into these schools. But I don't think in practice that always works out because of test prep and private schools and where these kids who are taking the schools go before.
Let me cut you off. I want to get back to what's going on, Michael, at MSAT. Tell me about it there, because that's new and is an indication of the direction of the program.
Absolutely. This is the first year we're being housed in an actual New York City public school. So we're in Norwood in the Bronx. We're at MSAT. We have about 40 students there now. We're running a 6th grade and a 7th grade class, so now we're also expanding back into the 6th grade, giving an extra year of preparation for students up there. And they've already shown tremendous increases in their test scores at that school. The principal of that school, Principal Rivera, was very interested in our program, not only for aiding in test preparation for the specialized high schools, but something we found is that they perform much better on their standardized tests in general. At the end of every year, kids are taking math and reading.
Michael, we're almost out of time. The website is for the initiative?
www.the-initiative.org.
And what can people find there on the website?
They can find more information about our statistics and the history of our program, and ways to get in touch with us.
It's a good thing that you guys are doing. So keep up the good work. That's great stuff. Thank you so very much. I mean, there's a lot of students who are going to benefit from what you guys are doing, and we could be having future leaders on Tiempo here in a few years talking about how you put them on the path.
I hope so.
All right, thanks again, guys. Coming up next on Tiempo, Diego Rivera in MoMA. We'll take a look at his work and the Latin art movement in America. That's coming up next.